Good afternoon, this is Media Center Ukraine, Odesa, and we continue our work. You can watch us online on our YouTube channel or in our Facebook page. You can also ask your questions online. Just scan the QR code that you can see on your screens. Now we are going to discuss volunteer assistance to the wounded Ukrainian defenders. Our guest is Natalia Chyzhykova, volunteer. We are glad to have you today. As far as I know, you started your volunteering activity in 2014 with the start of the war. And in your background, you're a hairdresser and a stylist. What you started your volunteering with? Actually, first, I just brought something that I was asked to bring to the military hospital, and that was the start of my volunteer activity. And there were a lot of wounded, and I saw that all of them need a helping hand, and they just brought some sausages back then. And this is the 10th year I've been involved in volunteering for the hospital. So now, Yopet, from your work, we visit the hospital with wounded soldiers. What is the biggest need you can see there nowadays? I know that volunteers have the role of psychologists because wounded soldiers just need someone to talk to. Sometimes they want to talk, and in other cases they prefer to be silent. It depends on their condition, and people are different, the wounds are different. It depends. It depends on the situation. Sometimes I come and I see that a person doesn't want to talk to me, and I just need to leave them alone. But then the situation can change, and recently I've met a guy who can't walk, and first he turned away, and then he asked to have some small chocolate bar, and now we are friends, and I brought to him everything, clothes and other items, and this is what we do for every person there in a hospital. And it seems to me that people recover quicker when we care about them. Have you seen any unique requests from soldiers? You've just mentioned a chocolate bar. And I cannot think of anything now. Sometimes they want Olivier salad. And in our team, we have Alla here who prepares homemade food. We also have Nazhenka Nadia, who also cooks like pies, and a lot happens there. And I may make posts on Facebook, and this helps me to keep the memory of all soldiers we care about. But now I just feel some mess in my head. And since the start of the full-scale invasion, can you think of the periods when the hospital received the biggest number of wounded? In Odesa, that was during the liberation of Kherson, the right bank, and now there are also a lot of wounded soldiers because of the activities on the left bank, and they are referred to our hospital because it is the closest one to that area. And we have like 2 wounded severely persons now. Are they visited by their relatives? Yes, they try to to visit them, but some soldiers have their relatives still on the occupied territories. Others have left abroad because their houses were destroyed. But they try to visit wounded guys. And now there is a guy with a very severe injury, and he lost his sight, and his leg and arm is damaged, and his wife is pregnant, and he is going to deliver soon. But anyways, she stays with him at hospital. And this is very important when they can have their relatives or close ones, loved ones with them, or their children. And it helps a lot. What injuries are the most frequent at hospital? When there were hostilities near Bakhmut in winter, there were a lot of burns and also injuries caused by mines and explosives. It is difficult to evacuate wounded soldiers from the left bank. That's why there are a lot of complications because of the tourniquets. And when it takes like 15 hours to evacuate the wounded, it is very difficult to recover. And so these are mainly mine explosives and evacuations. Do soldiers have enough medication provided by the hospital, or do volunteers have to find something? Generally, the Medicaid, we can see that there is enough supply, but it was different last year, and I had to buy like the whole boxes, like painkillers. There is no such huge demand now. Sometimes they lack something at hospital, and we need to buy something, or it could be very expensive, and then we cover such cases. So usually this is like bandages, wheelchairs, and crutches, clothes, because they are brought naked, because everything is taken from a soldier, from soldiers if they are wounded. Something like bandages. Because they cannot store a lot at hospital because of the big amount of the wounded, and we supply everything. Do soldiers or their relatives pay for some services or medication? Of course. Can you make an example? So if relatives can visit the wounded, they bring clothes, and it will be difficult for us to cover everything, because it is impossible to buy all clothes which are that are needed by the wounded. The relatives also bring food, some medication. But to say the truth, I don't know all the details. I just can see that if they are relatives and hospital, but they know our telephone, our contact details, they can always contact us if they fail to buy something by themselves. But relatives usually don't have much money, and they cannot buy or do everything needed, because a wheelchair can cost around $500. And it is even difficult like to buy or to rent it. Are there cases when relatives refuse to come to visit soldiers in Odesa? There are such cases, but they are really very rare. Yeah, there was a guy and his face was damaged by the anti-tank mine because he tried to cover his brother in arms, and his head, his face was heavily damaged, and when he lost his sight, and he sent that information to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend just left him. She refused to visit him, and she said that she could not be with him any longer. But we supported him to cope with it. And perhaps he will be able to move to the UK, and so there will some surgeries are planned for him here, and then he can go to the UK. So he has some plans for the future. How many wounded soldiers are there in Odesa? I cannot disclose this information. It is a secret. And I don't even know the exact number. We don't have this information. And just not to tell the exact number, does the number increase, or is it a stable quantity? It's increasing because of the offensive in the Zaporizhzhia area and in Kherson Oblast. And we can see the increasing number. So that was more or less a stable period in summer, in spring, but now we can see that the number is increasing. You're a hairdresser, and as far as I understand, you also provide the hairdresser services there at hospital. I work with women, but my friend, she works with men. And we also have one more member of our team. She's a great hairdresser, and her husband is at the front line, and she makes haircuts for wounded soldiers just to make her contribution. So you can bring everything which soldiers ask from you. These are foods, medication, and also some equipment to speed up rehabilitation of soldiers. I know the children also just draw some drawings for soldiers, and I know that there's like mini galleries now, or exhibitions at hospital. Yes, they love it. They feel more motivated. The children think about them, that they do something for them, and they put these drawings in their words. And if you go to words, you can see a lot of self-made presents from children. Do they read news at hospital? And do they worry about their brothers or sisters in arms? They don't read news because they are in touch with their fellow soldiers, and they want to come back to their brothers in arms or sisters in arms there. And that was there was a wounded guy, Mykola Rusetsky, and his leg was amputated, and now he's got the prosthesis. But he returned to the front line, and we have a lot of such guys because they need to be operated, but they just take crutches and go to the front, return there. And all there's doctors that are at hospital. There are also military doctors, and one of them that was a woman, and she was in 20 kilometers from Bakhmut in winter. She spent 8 months there, and she saw the real war there. She felt adrenaline in her blood. She felt the pulse of the war, and that's what she saw in the wounded soldiers. And she just, after bandaging, they just go back to the front line. It is not felt like that in Odessa. Have you seen soldiers who got to hospital, who repeatedly got to hospital? Yes, some of them just got referred to hospital several times. I've been volunteering for so long that I just have some friends there now. And in 2014, I brought boots to one of the guys, and in 2014 he returned to the hospital and he remembered me. Now we don't see such a huge demand in uniform, in helmets, in armored vests, and that's good because at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the situation was really terrible because a lot of people joined the armed forces of Ukraine, and that was a lack of such things as uniform, helmets, and now the demand is for UAVs, FPVs, and in our case, we always need clothes, shoes, and I am just in charge of the intensive care unit, and all these guys, they just cannot get up to buy something. They are all in severe condition. We have an online question from our colleagues. Have you seen the situations when relatives of the soldiers are forced to buy medication which should be provided by the hospital according to the protocol? To say the truth, I'm not aware of such cases, but I think that they are there. Once a doctor asked us to help with medication for a guy in an intensive care unit, and actually the doctor just bought that medication and paid for that, and then we helped him. Or relatives could do that. So the amount was not that big, like 7,000 hryvnias, but a drugstore made a significant discount for us. But sometimes, yes, there is a lack of medication at the hospital. Do ordinary people refer to you and in attempt to give something to soldiers at hospitals? They just ask us what is needed there. They used to bring a lot of clothes, like second-hand clothes, and so sometimes people brought some suits and ties, and of course that was not needed at hospital. We need just sports clothes, and it's great if they can have some jacket with a zipper, and so sometimes our girls from our team, they adjust all these clothes for them to be more comfortable for wounded people. They bring some sweets. Just ordinary Odessa residents just offer to bring books or to prepare food for guys at the hospital. So, like some household items, and maybe there is a demand for something. You can now just address the audience. we don't need money actually, because it would be great if people can just brought sports clothes to us, and that would be really great. We don't buy some winter clothes. We don't have enough money for that. But we're just in need of sports suits for guys to be able to dress themselves at hospitals. That's the biggest demand now. Bandages, some disinfection. We buy that by ourselves, and sometimes something we can get from humanitarian aid, but this is not enough. That's it. Fridges, TV sets, some other equipment or devices. We used to buy fridges for some hospital, and like washing machines as well, and drying machine. It's for wards. No, for the whole department. For example, if the pants are taken from guys or the jacket is still there, and I used to wash everything at home in my washing machine, and I had to replace it because of the blood smell, and of course the guys need to have their clothes washed. And sometimes the guys are in a severe condition, they can't do everything by themselves. Where do relatives stay when they come to Odessa? Sometimes they rent apartments, and there was dormitories for relatives, but I don't know what is the situation with the dormitory now. Sometimes we cover the accommodation costs for relatives for several days if we understand that they don't have money for that. Sometimes the documents or the credit cards are destroyed. Telephones can be left at a military unit. So sometimes wounded soldiers, they don't have anything with them. For those who want to support you or wounded soldiers, how can they find you? I post everything on my Facebook page. They contact you there. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today at the Media Center Ukraine Odessa. Thank you very much for your activities, for your support. That was Natalia Chyzhykova, volunteer. And that was the last briefing for today.